I get Barry, and sorry I was delayed coming back from Leinster House. The traffic, and one of the benefits of a United Ireland is we might get that railway back into Donegal in the future. But I want to really begin by thanking Ireland's Future for organising this public meeting, and indeed the whole series of public meetings that they have, and very, very excited about the October meeting. I think Bob Dylan's playing the Three Arena, but the real show is going to be Ireland's Future there in the first. And just kind of going off my script here, but I was taken by, I don't know if anybody's seen Colin Harvey's video that went out this evening. I just thought it was fantastic. He's just walking along by the river, and he's saying, close your eyes and then think that you're there on the night of the referendum and the people have voted for constitutional change. Who are you going to think about in that second? Who are you going to lift the phone to phone? And are you going to be able to say that you were part of it, that you were part of the conversation? And everybody here tonight, by being part of this conversation, is being part of this change, of writing a history. And for me as an Irish Republican, I get up every morning to try and end British occupation of my country. That's my raison d'etre. It's the raison d'etre of my party. And it's a hugely exciting time because there's so much happening in terms of Irish unity, whether it's, the Seanad, what's happening in terms of the consultation process that's ongoing within the Seanad at the minute, and the extension has been extended, the deadline's been extended for submissions till the 12th of October in terms of the constitutional future of Ireland. And it was great to see all of the different political parties and independents coming together in that video, asking people from right across the island of Ireland to make their submissions. Ourselves and Sinn Féin have launched our own commission on the future of Ireland, and asking people again to make their submissions of what they believe it should be. But I think that it's really, really important and exciting in the time ahead. And in the time ahead needs to be about preparing for a new United Ireland. It needs to be about planning for that. And as we discuss that tonight, it's important that we discuss context, because context is important as we discuss and prepare for Irish unification. We always need to remember, as been mentioned by other speakers, that we are speaking to different audiences, that different people will come from it with different perspectives. And all of this is rooted within the Good Friday Agreement, an agreement now that's 24 years old. And it's through that and through the consent of the Irish people that we will and can only achieve reunification. The consent of the people given in separate referenda, north and south. So we will have citizens here in Letterkenny voting in one referenda, while citizens in Derry and elsewhere will vote in another. And people will come at it, as I said, with different perspectives. In the north, those within the nationalist community will have their own perspective, and unionists will have their own perspectives in this, and will approach the referendum with a different set of concerns, a different set of opportunities, of hopes, and notwithstanding the identity of also those who neither define themselves as nationalists or unionists. And the questions, which there'll be many, many questions, but they'll be about identity. These are the things that we need to talk about. They'll be about the future of our public services. They'll be about taxation. They'll be about living standards and opportunities. They'll be about what was mentioned earlier on, about hope. That idea, that's something that few countries have, the idea to start over again, to build a new nation, a new Ireland, to take the best of what we have, north, south, east and west, and leave the bits behind that weren't so good. The idea to recreate, to reinvent, and that's what excites me about the period ahead, the opportunities, the possibilities. And that's what we need to do as those who in this room believe in Irish reunification, believe in the idea of a new Ireland. We need to set out that vision as best as possible in an inclusive manner of how that future looks like, to convince the vast majority or the greatest number of people possible that that is the way forward. We know from, in Donegal, we all know the effects of partition. It's impacted on us economically, it's impacted on us socially, it's impacted us in many, many ways. But one of the things that we do have, and sometimes we take for granted, is that we at least can elect a government and we can hold them to account. In the north, that doesn't exist. In the north, there is a huge democratic deficit at the heart of the union, and it has devastating consequences, and those consequences flow right into Donegal as well because of our peripheral nature and our connection with the border. So the people need to be given an opportunity to be able to determine their own future, determine the future for themselves, and that shouldn't be a controversial idea. It should be one that definitely isn't without its problems. But we have seen, after a century of independence, that in this state it has led to a higher level of living standards and opportunities for the people of the south compared to the north. And these gains couldn't have been made if it was still within the Union. We know that Britain is now facing a decade of stagnation, a decade of high inflation, with higher inflation and less investment as a direct result of leaving the European Union, a decision that went completely against the majority view of those citizens in the north. And again, Britain is the sick man of Europe. So the north is an opportunity. The North is an opportunity to fulfil the potential of the Good Friday Agreement and chart a better future. It has an opportunity back into the European Union, and that's not something you need to convince the European Union of. They have already made that decision, which is a major difference from the independence and the movement in Scotland, which was a massive issue for them in terms of European membership. That is a settled issue as a result of the Council's decision a number of years ago that the North, if they vote, will be automatically back in the European Union. Others can discuss the positives or negatives for that, but there's no doubt that Brexit has propelled this discussion and has led to many others who never would have thought of having a discussion in terms of the future, the constitutional future of the North, are now starting to look at that. Listen, I have much more I would like to say. There's three things that we would like to see. We have to have this discussion. It has to be inclusive. The work that Ireland's Future is doing, the work that so many different NGOs, organisations, universities are doing. There's so much happening now in terms of research on Irish unity. But this also needs to be led by the Irish government. The Irish government needs to set out a pathway of what a new Ireland will look like. That needs to be in the form of a green paper, a discussion document that's inclusive. They need to set up a citizens' assembly so that citizens right across the island of Ireland can participate in a way that is inclusive in terms of shaping what a new Ireland would look like. And they also need to set up this all-party committee that allows for politicians north and south to have those discussions also. So Gurmaigat Barry, and thanks again for Ireland's Future for the opportunity to talk to you.